So hello and welcome everybody. My name is Karen Eggleston. I'm director of our Asia Health Policy Program, and I'm delighted to welcome you back. To those of you who've been here before, welcome to those who may be new to our Quocum series on health policy and demographic change throughout the Asia Pacific region. Before introducing today's speaker, I just want to mention some upcoming events. The Thursday after Thanksgiving, we have a webinar with our partners in China on planetary health, and we have a whole series continuing through winter quarter on environment and health, including the very first week, piggybacking on the national economics meetings being in the region. We will have professor from University of Tokyo, Professor Shigeoka, talking about the economic costs of allergies in Japan. And then we'll have other events throughout winter quarter on this topic on health and the environment. Our speaker today also has important research in this area, but today we'll be hearing more about her work related to health and in development. And we're delighted to have us presenting today Professor Huixia Wang, who is a visiting scholar here with Shorenstein APARC and Asia Health Policy during this entire calendar year. We're delighted she's able to share with us preliminary results of part of the work she's been working on during her year with us here. Professor Wang is an associate professor at Hunan University in China and received her PhD in economics from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and has done important research published in leading field journals related to health in the environment and development, including in the Journal of Development Economics, China Economic Review, Applied Economics. So please join me in welcoming Professor Wang.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for introducing me. And also, I want to say thank you for Karen for inviting me as a visiting scholar here. So I really love the environmental at APARC Stanford. So it's a brand new experience and also very wonderful experience here. Well, so also good afternoon for everyone. Thank you all for showing up today, especially given that maybe some of you still recovering from like the emotional roller coaster about the election, right? So yeah, I mean, seriously, who wants to sit here to talk about like research after like such big event, like everybody's watching in the whole world? I feel a little bit stressful because just right after this big event, the research sounds like not that juicy or interesting. And also, to be honest, I have a little bit problem for preparing the slides. I thought 3 days or 4 days would be enough for preparing the slides here, but I didn't know that the election day is just right before my talk. So when I sit in front of my computer, and I decided to try to finish the slides like as soon as possible. And 5 minutes later, I found that myself scrolling through, the breaking news, everywhere. And also, my friends, like in China, they keep texting me, send message to me to ask me about my opinions about like the election. So, well, my opinions, I hardly have a hard time to know which politicians belongs to which party. And maybe some of them also want to know like I can share some inside information. Well, indeed, I'm in US, but I'm not in White House, right? So where I can get that information. Well, so here we are. I still need to present this work, and let me briefly introduce the co-authors for this work. So this work is teamwork, and I co-authored with Professor Tim Holliday from University of Hawaii at Manoa, and also Bash Mazumder. He's a researcher at Federal Reserve Bank, Chicago, and also professor from Kampao Sinha from Australia. So this is a teamwork. What we are trying to do here is we are trying to estimate the intergenerational health persistence of health, like in a developing country, specifically in Indonesia so far. So right now, this work is still in the early stage. We just get some basic baseline results for preliminary results. We haven't finished everything yet, but I want to share with you guys, maybe you guys can give me like more comments, directions, what we need to do more about the results. And the outline for this paper gonna follow from the background. And I also want to do a little bit specific like literature review, and then contribution, the data we use, the method, and the results. So why we care about like the intergenerational mobility? Actually, about intergenerational mobility, this topic is mostly motivated by the concern about equality of opportunity. So so far, large research have done like in for the intergenerational income mobility, intergenerational education mobility. So a lot of work have been done for that. And but so far little is known about like the intergenerational health mobility. So that is the focus for our current project. And the large and growing like literature on intergenerational mobility has emerged in recent decades, primarily, as I said, primarily motivated by like the equality of opportunity. So inequality is a big issue, like in many countries. And so if there is little mobility between generations, the inequality gonna be even bigger. This problem gonna be even bigger. Like how people, for example, people view like inequality, actually, that's often depends on how much of this like intergenerational mobility pass from one generation to the next generation. For instance, for most like market-based economies and income, specifically for income inequality is a big issue. But some argue that this is also offer chance for upward mobility, moving upward. So it's like giving people hope, like they might be feel okay that this giving people hope that everyone have a shot to be exercised, to be success. Like in some developing countries, we all know like for example, like in China's economy is booming for like over the past 4 decades. And income inequality it's always been a big issue, but people seems to be taking this as okay because still a lot of people, like people around you still have a chance, to move upward, to get a better job, to earn more money, and their kids can be find like a better job. So people seems a little bit okay with this. But when the economy goes down, all the problem, the inequality problem seems to be exaggerated, because people feel hard, struggle to keep their own job, and also their kids are also difficult to find a promising job as well. So this is the motivation for like the intergenerational income mobility. Actually, there are a lot of research has been done this. I'm gonna show you, there's a review paper by Jens Gruder in 2018. He released a report like review most of the intergenerational income mobilities. I'm gonna show you very soon. So in case you might be curious about what's the intergenerational like income mobility in your home country, maybe you can look at the numbers. We have like the intergenerational elasticity of income and education. But before you look at the specific numbers, let me explain what is the intergenerational elasticity of income, this IGE means. So this is actually means how much like the income can be persistent, can be transmitted from one generation to another generation. For example, if this number is equal to 0.2, that means the difference of the two families, for example, for two families, if the income difference is about 10% for their parents' generation, and then we would expect that for the children's generation, this income difference would be just about 2%. So this is what this intergenerational elasticity of income means. But if this number equal to 0.8, that would mean there's a high persistence for income for the income mobility. So this number is too big. And then let's see, for UK, this number is about 0.44, Italian 0.24, yeah, and Germany a little bit smaller, 0.28, and the smallest is from the northern European countries, Norway, Finland, Denmark is less than 0.2. And for US, it's 0.47. It's pretty high. It's among one of the highest for the income inequality. And Japan, 0.34, Australia, 0.26, Brazil, 0.55. I also checked one paper, a couple papers that use the Chinese data to estimate the intergenerational elasticity. It's in the range of 0.3 to 0.5. So there are large variations. Okay, and for education, it's also similar. So from 0.3 to 0.6, so it's a little bit bigger for the education, intergenerational education mobility. And then we're gonna come back to the intergenerational health mobility. So unfortunately, the research on intergenerational health mobility is not that much. So it's only some of the new research started to estimate the intergenerational health mobility. So, but why we want to study intergenerational health mobility? So if I ask you how important is your health for you, I think everybody thinks your health is the most important thing for your life, right? It's good for your mental health. It's good for your well-being. It's also good for closely related to your career. It's related to everything. So health is the most important, one of the most important component for our well-being. And over the last few decades, there has also been increasing recognition that health is highly related to socioeconomic status, critical components of welfare, and human capital. And for example, life expectancy just measure like how long you can live. So it's a very straightforward and also very powerful measurement for lifetime utility. And also researchers also found there's a strand of research they are trying to figure out how the early childhood health can be, can affect your adult outcome or performance. So what they found is poor health early in life also related to or leads to reduced educational attainment. So if you are in poor health, your education is gonna be low as well. And worse labor market outcomes, you're gonna earn less, and also you're gonna have some kind of chronic disease, more likely to have some kind of chronic disease later in life. And also health, when you get older, health is also a very important component for like decisions about whether you work or whether you're gonna retire, on your consumption and the saving decisions as well. So health, as we discussed, health is a very important component for our well-being. But so far, less is known about how health is transmitted from one generation to another generation. We basically just know that people are richer people, like more educated people, they can, like more healthy people, they can be richer, they can be more healthier, but how can this be transmitted to to the next generation? Less known is so far. And why there are a lot of research that estimating that the intergenerational income mobility and educational mobility, but that is on health. That is because health is difficult to measure. So for income mobility, we can just observe like individuals' income for different years. We can calculate the permanent income. So then we can run regression for the children's income and their parents' income, and then we can get the intergenerational mobility. And education is also easier to calculate how many years you achieve. But for income, which variable or which health variable is like the best to represent your overall health? It's pretty difficult to do that. And the second is also requires like panel data containing broad-based, either broad-based or specific health measures for adults in two generations. So because we are doing for the intergeneration result, so we need two generations. So this kind of data set is not easily available or not in good quality. And the third thing is the long run latent health status might be reviewed only until relatively later in that. So if I gonna ask how's your health overall for like children, for like adults about 20s, basically they all answer like very good, excellent. Only the variations only show up when they grow older, like 40, at least 30s, like 40s, 50s, like the variation of the health status gonna emerge at that age. So basically it's need pretty high quality and high standard for the panel data. And these panel data are not, available a lot. The next step, I gonna do a crosswalk about the literature review. So although there are not too much intergenerational health mobility literatures, but we still have some to look at. So the first one, there are like two different groups of health measures. One is like the highly specific health measures, like longevity, like the height, the weight, the BMI, and another group of the health measure is for like the more broad level, like overall level. So let's look at the highly specific health measures. The first one is for longevity, the lifespan. So the first period, has a long history. The first research is by Beaton and Pearson from like more than 100 years ago, and so they just trying to figure out how the intergenerational health mobility in terms of longevity for like what's the ratio, what's the mobility for that. And most of the literature that study the longevity, they use a relatively either small sample size or on very small, on very specific populations. So longevity is difficult to observe because we need like two generations, and also we need to observe like how long they lived. It's not like the other health measures. Maybe we can observe their health status like in their 30s, 40s, but like the lifespan, they have to finish. We need to observe like how long they specifically live. So it's difficult to get that kind of data. And Black 2020, they doing excellent work about using the main data. Actually, they use the modern data with 26 million individuals born between 1880 and 1990. So they trying to estimate the intergenerational correlations for longevity. And what they found is the mobility is just 0.1. And when they consider a single parent, and 0.17 when they consider like take the average for their both parents. And she also, the Black paper, they also like reviewed, highlighted 14 studies, like similar related studies. And the vast majority of the estimates from this literature, the estimates are just around like below 0.2. It's quite low. So overall, it appears that there's a quite low correlation in the lifespan for like parents and children. And the next, as I said, the longevity is unable, the disadvantage for using longevity is first is unable to measure, it's only measure like how long you live, but we cannot know like what's the life quality. So this is just the kind of answer one aspect of the health. And the other aspect for long for the lifespan, they cannot answer that question. And the second, it's difficult to get this kind of data because we need to observe like very pretty long time. And another like specific health measures the literature use is including height, weight, and the BMI. So Galton, 1886, like 150 years ago, they found a strong relationship between the height of children and their parents. I think the regression, the coefficient is about 0.66. So nowadays, a lot of parents trying to figure out how tall like their kids can grow up, right? So they just use the coefficient from this study. About 70% of your children's head gonna determined by the average of their parents, and so this is quite high. And another study by Agblut and Kugler, 2016, they estimate the intergenerational transmission of head weight and body mass in US. They are using the NLSY dataset, and the coefficient is about 0.3 or 0.32. And Klassen, 2010, they also use like the US data and estimate the association in BMI between young women and their parents, and the correlation is about 0.35. So it's quite big for head weight and BMI, but it's very low for like the lifespan expectancy. And then also there are researchers that are trying to figure out the correlation between parents' birth weight and their children's birth weight. Curry and Mori, 2017, they have done excellent work. They are using the admin data from California. They have all the California's birth mothers and the children's birth weight, and the association is about 0.2. Black, 2007, they use admin data as well. They use the data from Norway, and admin data means the whole country, the whole country's data there. So from Norway from 1967 to 1997, and the association is about 0.25. It's pretty similar. So this is for birth weight. And then there are also highlighted two excellent work by Johnston and Bensick. They are measuring for mental health. Like Johnston using the 1970s British cohort study and measure the mental health, so intergenerational mental health, like from parents to children, it's a range of about 0.13 to 0.19. And Bensick, 2023, this is new work. They are estimating that the ratio is about 0.17 and 0.2. So this is for mental health. So we just briefly reviewed like the in terms of intergenerational health mobility, researchers use very specific health measures like height, weight, BMI, mental health, or like the lifespan. And so overall, from all these results, all these studies, we can find that the intergenerational health mobility is relatively low compared to intergenerational income mobility and education mobility. So it's mostly ranging from 0.1 to 0.3. And when we look at the head BMI, these two are exceptions. So it's typically larger. It's around 0.4. And then further, there are more researchers, they are trying to figure out like the intergenerational health mobility from a more broad way, like BMI, either BMI or head, can they really represent your overall health? Maybe not. So self-reported health status, this is a very typical and a very typical measure to represent individuals' overall health. So for self-reported health status, if you are familiar with health economic, like most of the survey will ask this question. Basically, they will ask you in general how well it's. Would you rate your health like in general excellent, very good, fair, or poor, like in 4 to 5 scales, and you can just say like which scale you belong to. Your health is excellent, or just fair, or very poor. So this is for self-reported health status. And this measure is highly predictive for mobility, even when we compare to clinical measures such as chronic illness. So this one, this self-reported health status is it's one of the most common used health measure like in health economics. And Halliday 2021 is the first study like they are trying to produce the estimates of intergenerational health mobility by using the self-reported health status in US. This basically use the data from PSID, and they employ a method like used by National Center for Health Status to convert self-reported health status to a continuous measure. As I mentioned, self-reported status are category values like from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5. And they use one method to convert this to a continuous value. I will explain more about how to do this, like in later, very soon. And when they putting all the genders and the parents together, the estimate for the Intergenerational Health Association is about 0.23, and the rank slope is 0.26. So this is the result for US. And inspired by this study in US, there are several studies that followed by using data from different other countries. Like this paper, Fletch 2021, they also used the US data, National Longitudinal Study, and they estimate the Intergenerational Health Association is about 0.17. Remember for holiday study, this is 0.23 or 26, and this one is a little bit lower. They both using data from US. So the reason for this partly due to the children's age is a little bit younger. It's younger compared to like Holiday's study. Holiday study is about 30. And for this study, I think it's much younger. And also the sample size is smaller. So they produce like smaller estimates. And basic 2023, they use the UK data. This data from UK is also one of the longest like panel data in UK, and the PSID is also the longest, I guess, in US, the panel data, so they can do like the two generations study. So for the UK, this association is about 0.19. It's just close to 0.2, and the rank slope is about 0.17. And another study also do a similar analysis in Australia, and the Intergenerational Association is about 0.2. And another one is using the self-reported health status in Germany, and they found the association is about 0.23. So these four, including Holiday 2021, these 5 studies, they all use the survey data. So to get pretty similar, just around 0.2, like the association just about 0.2. And the following 2 studies, they use the main data. So for example, for Anderson 2021, they use the registered data on hospitalization for Denmark. And they also use another method, but they also use another method to extract a health measure. It's called PCA, Principal Components Analysis. And they combine, they basically have a bunch of like 18 health outcome variables, and they can put them together and try to extract one like individual index to represent the most, to represent the majority of the variety for all these outcome variables, and use this single index to represent the overall health. And for this study, they found that the rank slope is around 0.1 to 11 to 15. So it's pretty low for Denmark. And for this study, Chang 2024, they used the admin data from Taiwan, and also use the PCA method as well. So they produce the rank slope is about 0.2020. So these two, as far as I know, these two are the only like research using the admin data to study this question. And to be briefly mentioned here, so as far as we know, like there are we discussed, there are like two kinds of data sets we are using. One is from the survey data, and another is from the domain data. So we cannot say like which one is better, like either survey data is better than domain or domain is better than survey, because these two kinds of data sources are different. So for survey data, it has advantages. Although the sample size is smaller, but all the questions are tailored for, for researchers. They have like more informative informations, demographic informations about like family's income, education, like all the detailed informations. But for the domain data, it's not, it's not designed to do such kind of research. They have like very limited information about like the family background. So although, but they are because they have a large sample size, so the measurement error should be a little smaller. So we cannot say, so basically we cannot say like which data set is much better. And what do we know so far? So the results from all these studies seem to show fairly narrow set of estimates for the intergenerational health mobility, just between 0.1 to 0.3, like the difference by different locations or different data sets. And Denmark shows the most mobility around 0.1 to 0.15. So remember, like the intergenerational income mobility is also smaller for countries like Denmark, Finland as well. So for health, we observe like a similar trend. And for UK, Australia, Germany follow the very similar around 0.2, and the US is about 0.26 to 27. And also for the intergenerational income mobility, US is the highest for like developed countries as well. So overall, it seems that intergenerational health mobility to be more rapid than intergenerational income mobility or intergenerational educational mobility. So the association is a smaller, much smaller compared to income mobility and education mobility. So when we walk through all the current related literature, we can talk about the contribution for this paper. So for this paper, first, we use a richer set of information on health data, especially compared to Holiday 2021. They only use like one self-reported health status. And besides self-reported health status, we also have like a lot of information about biomarkers, including like the pulse, hypertension, anemia, and let's say body BMI with hip ratio. Like, so we have in total, I think we have 9 outcome variables in total. So we can give a bigger picture or more broad picture about the health, intergenerational health mobility. And also we use both subjective health measurements like self-reported. Some people may think that self-reported maybe, have some measurement error. And we also have like objective health measures, like including blood tests as well. And all the biomarkers are measured either by the nurse or by the interviewees. So it's not self-reported. So it's more accurate in terms of the measure. And secondly, we evaluated intergenerational health mobility in a new developing country in Indonesia. So all the available research recently, right now, is mostly for like developed countries. And we do have one research, I think it's for India, but they only measure the intergenerational health mobility for anemia specifically, not for, the more broad way of the health measurements. And also we will, I haven't done this yet, but we will consider the relative importance of both parents' disadvantaged socioeconomic status and the parents' health, like this combined interplay these two together to see how this gonna determine the children's outcome as well. So the data we use is from Indonesia Family Life Survey. It's called IFLS, and it's a very good survey. It's covered from 1993 and 2014. So as you may know, in developing countries, there's a relatively less available high quality survey data. And the IFLS is one of the very good quality survey data in developing countries. So this data set covers from 1993 to 2004, and we have 5 waves together in total, 5 waves in total. And the sample is representative for about 83 of the Indonesia's population, and it contains about 30,000 individuals living in 13 provinces in Indonesia. And IFLS was conducted by RAND and also some institutions like University of Indonesia Population Research Center, etc. And the IFLS provide like enriched information about self-reported health, the demographic background, family income, family consumption, like everything there, and also biomarkers. So it's a perfect data for us to study the intergenerational health mobility in context of developing country. So as I said, the health outcome variables we have, including self-reported health status, biomarkers like anemia, hypertension, BMI, waist-hip ratio, and pulse. And we use the ID like provided by IFS to link the parents and the children and their children. We only include parent and the child pairs where the children respond to the survey at least once. And we also only use health measures for children who are age 30 or older, like trying to capture the variations for children's health. So here is the summary statistics. I still need to work on this to make this table more precisely. So since, as you can see, we have a lot of number for summary statistics. Maybe we can just take a look at self-reported health status first, and all the others a little bit mostly similar. So let's look at panel A, self-reported health status. The average age for father is 56, for mother is about 53, and for children is about 35. So this is the age for our sample. And the education level, we cannot calculate the years of schooling. We only know the information whether this individual is unschooled or only finished several years of the elementary school or junior high school. So we can only provide the information for all these categories. About 60% of the parents are less than junior high school, and 20% for father unschooled, and even more for mother, 25% for unschooled. And for junior high school, 12% for father, 9% for mother. High school or above, high school or college is about 13% for father and 5%, only 5% for mother. And here's the summary statistics for children. So for children, only about 3%. So this is for sons, for daughters, and all the children. We put all the children together. So only about 3% unschooled, and 33% less than junior high school. High school and above is about 40% for children's generation. And this quality here, actually we generated from self-reported health status. So as I said, self-reported health status is for like 4 categories in FLS from 1 to 4. 1 is represent for excellent health, 4 is represent for poor health. And we use some kind of method to mapping this. Basically, we just assign numbers. We just assign a range numbers for different category. For example, if you report your health is poor, like for 1 for self-reported health status, we assign like your quality life year is in the range of from 1 to 30, number from 1 to 30, and we just take the midpoint for like each person. If you report your health status like equal to 2, we assign like your quality number is about 30 to 70, and then until 100. So we just calculate these numbers. So the average quality for parents is 75, and the average quality for children is 77. It's a little bit higher. So these are the number of observations. And here, for panel B, here's the summary statistic for anemia or hemoglobin. So similar, parents year average age is about 58, children is about 35. And about the interesting thing here is, so as you can see, for father, 33% of the fathers will have anemia. And this number for mother is 73. And for son, it's about 10%. And for daughters, it's about 65%. So it's pretty common, like in developing countries, pregnant women or like younger young kids, especially women or young kids, they have a higher probability to have anemia. So this is pretty common in developing country. Let's see, and here's for hypertension, similar, and the pulse. So pulse, this is for hypertension. Actually, for hypertension and the pulse, these two outcome variables has never been studied in terms of intergenerational health mobility before. So these two are new, hypertension and the pulse. And this is for BMI. So this is for BMI, and we also use a waist-hip ratio to represent for the whether you are overweight or in a normal like body mass or like not normal unhealthy status. And so for waist-hip ratio, I think only individual samples beyond 40 they measured waist and hip. So this sample size is it's dramatically dropped to 1,000, around 1,000 to 2,000 for each group. So this is only observed for individuals age 40 and above. So here, here's figure one. This shows the self-reported health status over the life cycle. As I mentioned, we use quality to represent the self-reported health status. We just assign them with numbers. So as we can see, this is the age. We observe we plot finger for age range from 30 to 85, because after 85 we have less observations, and so it's kind of noisy at the tail. So we just cut until 85. So as we can see, when people get older from 30 to 80 or 85, the general self-reported health status is going down. So this is one of our main health outcome variables we're gonna focus in this study. And these are the similar finger, but for all the other outcome variables. For example, for anemia, hypertension, pulse, BMI. So yeah. So as we can see, for anemia, as people getting older, the probability for anemia is going higher. Okay, and this is for the data, and then we're gonna talk about the method we are using. I think I'm running out of time. I'm gonna go faster. So the method is pretty common. So we just use the common method that basically used in the research about intergenerational income mobility. So basically we use two ways to measure health mobility. One, we use the Intergenerational Health Association so this is the equation. So Y1I represent for the child health outcomes. And Y0I represent for parents, 0 represent for the parents generation, parents health outcomes. So, and X represents for some controls. Specifically, the control variables including project age and for both parents and the children. So this is the baseline regression for the intergenerational health mobility. And the parameter beta is the measure of intergenerational persistence. And 1 minus beta is a measure for the mobility. So this is the one way we are trying to measure this. And another way we are trying to do this is also pretty common in the mobility research as well. We use the rank regressions. And this was popularized by Chetty 2014, and this is a regression. So here, actually, it's pretty similar to the first regression. Only here, we are not using the health outcome, the mean of the health outcomes. We use the rank. Actually, the R1 and R0 represent the percentile rank of health in each representative generation. So this is the rank for children's generation, and this is your health rank in like parents' generation. And we just run regression for these two ranks and get the this row here. And this row represents the persistence in the rank position, and the 1 minus row minus for the mobility. So similar stuff. And this rho and beta, this coefficient is not necessary to be same as this coefficient. So there's a little bit difference between these two coefficients when we run regressions. Okay, finally, this is our first preliminary results. Let's look at the rank slope for self-reported health status and the IHA for self-reported health status as well. So I plotted results into fingers, so it's easier for you to get what the slope looks like. For the rank slope, in terms of self-reported health status, it's about 0.12. And for the IHA, it's about 0.18. So if you still remember like the review we just did about self-reported health status, it's a little bit lower compared to the other studies in different locations. Let's see. Oh, okay. I have a brief summary here. So for Denmark, this number is about 0.11 to 15, and for UK it's 19, and for Taiwan it's 11 to 20, and for US it's 17 to 23, and for we only have 12 to 18. So compared with the other studies, our number is relatively low. It's similar as the number from Denmark. So I'm thinking about the reasons why our number is a little bit low compared to the other countries. So as indicated by Holiday 2021's paper, actually, if we go back to the summary statistics, okay, let's go back to the summary statistics. So this number shows the average number of times like observed for like each individual in our sample. So it's generally just about 3.3. So we have 5 waves, generally about 3.3 waves we can observe this individual. And when we run regressions to estimate the intergenerational health mobility, actually we take the average for like all the available years for the health outcomes and for both generations to try to minimize the measurement error. It's just similar way as when we do like intergenerational income mobility, we just not observe one individual's income by 1 year and run the regression. We are trying to observe this individual's income like in many years, and then we can get a sense for permanent income. So this is the same logic as well. We just don't want to observe just this person in one wave. We want to observe like as many waves as possible, and we can get like more stable like this person's general health. And as we only have like about three observations, and in Holiday 2011's paper, they use PSID data. They have a pretty long panel. It's the average number of observation is about, I think it's about 15 years. So they can do such kind of test to see whether like if we use the average by different number of years, whether it's gonna affect their results. In fact, actually, if we only have 1 year, the coefficient is the smallest. If they only observe this individual health outcome just 1 year, so this rank slope is quite low. But if we have like 2 years, it increases dramatically, and then it's keep increasing until maybe about 6 years, 7 years. It's 5-6 years, and then it can reach to some kind of stable like coefficient. So what I'm thinking is why our number is smaller, maybe because we just observed the health outcomes relatively like shorter times, just 3 or 4 years. It's shorter compared to like US or other studies. And then this figure shows the rank slope for all the outcome variables we have. So for self-reported health status, we have like rank slope is equal to 0.12, and anemia a little bit bigger, and the hypertension similar to anemia, pulse bigger, and the BMI is the biggest. It's around 0.35. So this is kind of consistent to the most of the existing studies. And overweight is between 0.2 to 0.3. Underweight is smaller, and the waist-hip ratio is quite small as well. But for this one, we have really limited sample size. I'm not sure whether this will affect our results. Actually, I ran the same analysis by using the Chinese dataset, because for that dataset, we have a much larger waist-hip ratio observations. This number is around 0.24. So it's bigger if we have like larger sample size. Okay, so this is a comparison for BMI for like different between different locations. US, it's basically between 0.2 to 0.35, and for ours it's a similar 0.34. For Indonesia, it's similar as well. And then we are looking at the intergenerational health association by gender of parents and children. So for the first panel, we are showing like the IHA by both parents on son and daughters. So the blue represent for son and the red represent for the daughter. So we can see this ratio, this estimate is much bigger for most of our health outcomes. It's bigger for daughters compared to sons. When we look at father and the mothers differently, we can see the mother basically have like a larger coefficient compared to father as well. So this is a interesting point. We're gonna dig deeper about the gender difference later. So about the mothers and the fathers or sons or daughters. For most of the regression, I think the most strongest association is between mothers and daughters. Okay. And then we also do some heterogeneity analysis for each of the outcome variables. So basically, we are looking at rural, urban areas and different ethnicities, Javanese, Sudanese, and other ethnicities, and also different education levels as well. So we don't find too much difference between like different groups, only some, because we have a lot of outcome. Variables outcomes here. So basically, we only observe some difference for education level, and also some for like the ethnicity, but not too much for urban, whether you live in urban or rural area. So this is for heterogeneity. And we additionally ran regressions for intergenerational persistence by parents' family income or parents like a disadvantaged socioeconomic status. We construct this number by ourselves by using like a different many aspects of the household characteristics, like whether this household has access to clean water, clean fuel, whether this household in low income, the parents or the head of the household is lower educated. So we include like several, I think 7 or 8 outcome variables together to generate this one index to represent for parents disadvantaged socioeconomic status. So we basically don't find like any difference between like different parents' family income or different level of parents' disadvantaged socioeconomic status in terms of this health mobility. And at last, we also run regression for parents' income on like children's health. So for most of the for the top part of the regression, we find this regression, this coefficient is 0. And for BMI related and also for pulse for this one, we found some like positive effects, like the families like with higher income, parents with higher income will have like higher mobility for the body mass index. Okay, and yeah, so these are the appendix tables, like similar to the figures I just showed you, just show you specific numbers. And yeah, so that's it for the main results. Let me conclude briefly, and we can leave some time for Q&A. So given the rise of inequality and the associated concerns about unequal opportunity, studies of intergenerational mobility have received growing attention, especially for health mobility. So because originally, most research are doing intergenerational mobility in terms of income and education. So health mobility is quite new in recent years. And we provide the estimates of intergenerational mobility for broad-based subjective measure of health and also some specific objective health measures in the context of developing country, Indonesia. And consistent with existing literatures, we find relatively small estimates for small intergenerational health persistence in terms of all the outcome variables that we estimated, except for BMI related BMI. So BMI is consistent to the existing literature, is about 0.35. And I also ran the results for using Chinese data set. It's also similar. I think it's 0.33. And yeah, so also we are, in this paper, we are the first paper to include pulse hypertension with hip ratio to understand the health mobility as well. So basically, that's what we are, we are doing so far. I think this project, we just finished half of this, and we still have a lot of work to do, like in future. Yeah, so yeah, that's it for the preliminary results. Thank you, and any question or comments would be greatly appreciated.
So thank you so much. For those of you interested in lots of details, there'll be a working paper available in our Asian Health Policy Program working paper series later next month. It's preliminary ongoing work, many directions it can go. For now, any questions about what's been presented today?
I'm trying to think about how to make this story more interesting, because compare with the education and the income study. So what makes the the intergenerational health mobility special and unique? And another question is, from your study, what's the difference you learn from Indonesia? It's different from the developed country like USA or the Denmark.
Okay, thank you for the question. So for your first question, what is special for like study the intergenerational health mobility? So as I said, like health is a key component for our well-being. And just before like recent years, there are just very few studies focus on like the health part. And health is a very key component for our human capital and also for our career as well. So I think health is a pretty important part for the overall well-being. So as we are trying to measure like the intergenerational either income mobility or education mobility or health mobility, but after all, actually we want to construct or understand the intergenerational relationship about the whole well-being. That health is one important part of this. And in future work, haven't done this yet. In the future work, we are planning actually to interplay between like the income and health together. instruct the independent variable to try to understand how income and health together, can be transmitted between like different generations. And what's your second question? Sorry.
You learn from the Indonesia, which different from the developed country?
Yeah. So far we don't see like we find any like too much difference, like in general, too much in terms of the coefficient estimates. We don't find like too much difference between like developing country and the developed countries. So for developed countries, this number is quite slow, and this field research is still in infant stage. So just early, we still have a lot of work to do, and we are trying to dig more about the gender difference here as well in this paper, and also about like hopefully we are also trying to do like the geographic map, like for like in Indonesia, the samples from like different states, whether we can observe like variations between like different geographical locations as well. Yeah, so I think gender is one of our key point here. We want to dig more, but not sure how much we can get from there. And another thing is, as I said, we want to interplay like income and health together to generate overall well-being or welfare. Yeah, thank you.
Question: Is it possible that does the data set allow you to analyze the impact of parents' health at the time of those children are born? Because I think reproductive health of the women is known to have a major impact on babies' health. And
yeah, that's a very interesting topic. Yeah, as you said, that parents, especially mother's health, is very essential for the infant's health as well. Maybe we are talking about birth weight or whether the survival rate as well. But for this data set, I don't think we have information for like we can link the mother with the birth record. And in the related research, as I mentioned, some researchers, they are trying to figure out like the mother's birth weight, the relationship between mother's birth weight to their babies, their children's birth outcomes. So there are such research related to this, but for this project, we don't have information about that. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the really nice presentation. I think it's a very interesting topic, and that usually when we think of inequality, I think it's very an economic thing that we all think about. We usually think about income, social status and stuff, but I think, as you've mentioned, health is also a very important part of our well-being. So I think the intergenerational health mobility, I think is an interesting topic in terms of inequality. My question in here is that I think you're looking at Indonesia particularly to look at the developing country context. In that context is, I think a big difference between developing country and developed countries in this context would be more of the availability of good healthcare, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of information available in this data so that you can compare the two contexts, I guess?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So in the literature, we already have like studies results from like US, UK. So some for those studies, actually they compare why like the US has a relatively higher number and the UK or Denmark has a like relatively small number. So they argue that maybe for Denmark, US, they have the national healthcare system that is this is like better for to back up for the really poor families and to support those poor families. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, we gonna do more work on that. Yeah, sure.
Indonesia health. Oh, thank you, Lisa. But can you kind of enlighten us on the Indonesia health
system over there? Because so I understand your statistics that you presented today.
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't know like too much about Indonesia's health system, like too much about the details. Yeah, so I only tell you like what I know. So Indonesia, like I think they just in recent like 10 years, this 10 years, they started all more than 10 years, they started to have some national health care system like the national, and before that maybe like 20 years ago they don't have such kind of system to support them. Yeah, so basically the healthcare supporting system, healthcare system is it's similar as the other developing countries. It's not advanced in like the countries we are talking about, Denmark, UK, or the North European countries. Yeah, so it's still in the early stage, I think. Maybe Karen knows more about this. I really don't know too much detail about their healthcare system, but I would like to learn more. Yeah, because it's also very essential for me to understanding, you know, I need to understand the whole picture, and I can explain, you know, more specifically about what's happening in Indonesia. Yeah, I would learn more about this.
Thank you. Very wonderful lecture, very logic. And because I'm not familiar with the health econ, so I just wonder what's the mechanism about this topic about the parents' health to the children's health.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah, so in the economics field, we always talk about like we have the baseline result. We always talk about the mechanism, what's the channels under to explain the relation between these two variables. So in the current literature about this specific intergenerational health mobility, there's not too much. They are not talking about the mechanism too much. So as I said, it's still in the infant stage, early stage. So there are a lot more to working on this. So currently, most focus for this for the related researchers, they are trying to figure out the coefficient between like the two generations. Not too much have extended to the mechanism so far, but that's definitely for the future work.
Thanks, Huixia, for your presentation. It was great to see this type of research being done in Indonesia. It'd be great to see more comparative work with other countries in Southeast Asia. A couple questions, just one clarifying question. You said that you didn't see much of a difference between urban and rural. Was that for one variable or across the variables? And I also noticed that your data set includes data from all the 13 provinces. Did you see any sort of differences between the provinces? And I was wondering, do you have any sort of policy recommendations for Indonesia or for the local governments in those provinces?
Okay, thank you, Sher, for the question. Yeah, so so that's pretty surprising for me as well. I thought we should find some, difference between like urban and rural, because in developing countries, urban and rural actually they are quite a large difference for like either income, health quality. Like everything is quite different between urban and rural areas. But yeah, basically we don't find like we find small differences. But when I test the equity, it's just there's not too much difference between like a zero. So yeah, so far that's what we found here. And in the future work, actually, let me go back a little bit. I haven't time to present this. So in the future work, actually, we plan to to further estimate using the PCA method, as I mentioned. So PCA method if I see there are some students I'm familiar with here. So they are all visiting students from here. So if you are for your research, if you have similar situation, I personally think this is a really good method. So you have like many outcome variables, and you can construct to one single index to represent this either like for this case is for health outcomes. So like in future, I'm trying to do this right now, but just in the early stage, I'm not confident to present my result here. So I just, if I don't have time, I don't want to explain too much. So we use this PCA method, actually trying to like include all the health outcome variables. We have outcome variables here. Actually, we run the regression. Let's look at both parents' health only and all children together. So this number is getting bigger, but I haven't time, to test whether if we are doing in this way, we can find some like urban, rural, or different ethnicity, like heterogeneity difference between different groups. Yes, and yeah, as you said, we have like 13 provinces. My next step is trying to run the regression for like different provinces and try to show a map. Like a map, we can see like whether there's difference by locations. As far as I know, like Java is one of the biggest island in Indonesia, and it's also the capital is there as well. The most advanced economic city or island. So maybe we can find some difference there. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. Hopefully in the working paper uploaded next month. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your interesting talk, and you really did a lot of work. So I'm interested that since you use a lot of biomarkers to show the health status, so is there any possibility for us to create a multi-dimensional index to give a brief overview for one person or individual's health status, like the human development index? So we can create a health development index to give an overview or a brief direct sense for the readers or audience to describe the individual's health.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Yeah. Actually, yeah, we are trying to do that. In the related research, some papers are already doing this. As I said, PCA is one of the methods trying to construct all the health outcome variables together. And also self-reported health status. This is one variable. It's just measuring for the overall health. Yeah, I'm personally, I'm kind of feel we should trying to find like one index to show like everything, because if we are doing like we have 9 outcome variables and we are showing like everything here, it's not quite clear. It's not showing a very clear picture. Yeah, that's a good question. We'll figure out a way to doing this, trying to construct one index to represent the the whole picture. Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll close with a final question and to say, if you or your co-authors have discussed it all, perhaps one thing that's unique or distinctive about a developing country context, at least compared to Denmark and other studies, is that here you're looking at a sample conditional on survival to sort of middle age, quote unquote, which survival may be high in Indonesia and increasing over time, but surely it's lower than in Denmark. So I don't know if you have a suggestion on, have discussed how this is somehow conditional on intergenerational transmission of survival to some extent, and whether that means it's biased up or down in any particular direction.
Yeah, so far we haven't think about that as well. Yeah, so that's for our future work, definitely. As I said, this is just a very early stage of the work. We just run some basically preliminary results to see what's going on in Indonesia, but we haven't had time, to dig deeper and think more thoroughly what is happening and what's the difference between like Indonesia and all the other like developed countries. Yeah, so we'll do that. Thank you for your for your suggestion.
Thank you. Raising many interesting questions for future research. By the way, we have several Asia health policy webinars with speakers from Indonesia during the pandemic and others. If you want to know more about health policy in Indonesia, please join me in thanking Professor Wang.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, and thank you for the comments as well.